President Trump is on his way back to the U.S. after a multi-day trip to the Middle East. The visit included stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. He pushed leaders in the Gulf region to provide foreign investment in the U.S. economy. He also hinted a nuclear deal could soon be completed with Iran. The president says the proposal has been handed over to Iranian leaders for review, but they must move quickly or, quote, something bad's going to happen. Prior to his departure, President Trump stopped by the Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi. The interfaith complex includes a mosque, synagogue, and church. The president also attended one final business roundtable with leaders in the UAE, where he reflected on the last 4 days in the region.
The relationship and friendship is good. It's a really unified Middle East. It's something that we haven't seen. The U.S. was absent for 4 years. We didn't really know too much what we were doing for 4 years, and things were not going good. Other people were courting the Middle East, but they won't even waste their time in courting them any longer.
For more on this, let's bring in CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Ed, what are your key takeaways from the president's visit?
Well, he went over there seeking much more American investment, and he appears to have gotten it. Up to $600 billion, Saudi Arabia says it plans to spend or invest in the United States in the coming years. We can only account for just shy of $300 billion so far, but administration officials said that's because the rest of it's coming in future announcements. But ultimately, the goal is $600 billion. Several billion more from Qatar, and reinforcing defense partnerships with all three key Gulf states at a time when, earlier in the week, there was the release of an American hostage being held by Hamas, and Iran is at least looking at a deal from the United States to end its nuclear program. So all in all, the White House pretty pleased with how this week went, believing that they demonstrated that, 100 and so days into this new administration, they're reshaping U.S. foreign policy and getting the world to engage them in a series of different things. Perhaps the biggest setback of the week is the fact that Vladimir Putin didn't show up in Turkey for meetings with Volodymyr Zelensky about the war in Ukraine. The president had offered to rearrange his schedule to be there for it if it happened. It didn't happen, and so he's insisting that at some point soon he intends to meet face-to-face with Putin to try to settle that conflict.
What did President Trump mean when he said that bad things will happen if Iran doesn't move quickly on this proposal? And do we know what the proposal entails? Well,
we know that, in essence, through Iranian officials at least, is them ending any semblance of a nuclear program that could turn nuclear energy into weaponry. And that is a red line for just about the entire world, especially its neighbors there in the Gulf. And so as for what bad things could happen, remember, most prominently, Israel is bound and determined to attack Iran and its nuclear assets should an incident or a moment arise where it's necessary to do that. The problem is they don't want to do that without assurances that the United States would back them up, as they had to last year when Iran volleyed missiles towards Israel and the Iron Dome, stopped those missiles from penetrating much of Israeli airspace. So we'll see. It seems to be, in some ways, that the president this week at least was playing Israel and Iran off of each other, talking to Iran, getting them to at least look at some kind of an agreement and possibly get to some kind of a deal, where at the same time not going to Israel, not engaging them, and cutting a deal separately with Hamas for that one American hostage, Idan Alexander. So we'll see. Just another bob and weave in the Trump foreign policy that he ultimately hopes gets to peace and resolution of all these conflicts.
Perhaps you have the Golden Dome on the brain, President Trump's proposed dome over the U.S.
Over here, that's right.
Right. So I want to ask you about a post from James Comey. The U.S. Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security are investigating now this post from the former FBI director. And he posted, we're going to show you a picture of seashells writing out 8647. So 86 commonly referred to getting rid of something. In this situation, some in the administration are interpreting it as a threat to the president. The former FBI director has deleted the post. He also wrote in a subsequent post he knew the message was political but didn't realize some folks would associate those numbers with violence. What should we know?
We know that the Homeland Security Secretary, the FBI director, are planning to investigate this. The Secret Service traditionally, typically does look into these kinds of threats, whether they're made by the former FBI director or by some Joe Schmo who makes threats about the president on social media. Usually it involves the Secret Service going to talk to the person, reminding them of how dangerous it can be to make these kinds of threats, and usually ends there. But certainly Trump allies picked up on this pretty quickly. And it is somewhat curious that the former FBI director, who would have overseen cases regarding criminal activity and a lot of murders back in the day, didn't quite know what the term 86 meant. especially in regard to the 47th president.
Ed O'Keefe, thank you.